Anthony Lacavera, the founder and chairman of Globalive, is no stranger to trying to offer independent alternatives to Canadian industries that have a tight hold by the incumbents. He founded and chaired Wind Mobile to try and diversify the country's wireless sector. Now he's taking a similar stab at banking. Globalive is leading a bid to acquire Wealth One Bank of Canada, an embattled financial institution currently subject to extraordinary national security conditions over alleged links to the Chinese government. For more on this, his bid and his intentions, let's bring in Anthony Lacavera, founder and chairman of Globalive. Anthony, thank you so much for joining me. So the banking sector, talk to me about where you're at with Wealth One and how you initially got interested.
We see a lot of similarities, Amber, to the telecom industry, as you mentioned off the top there, that really you have an oligopoly that's concentrated in the entire industry, concentrated really in a few large players that we, of course, as Canadians are all very familiar with. And so we see a lot of analogs to the major telecoms similarly controlling the telecom industry. We think that there's an opportunity to offer Canadians a new independent alternative in banking services, and that'll bring more choice into the marketplace. That's going to lead to more innovation by the majors. And with more innovation, of course, Canadians are going to experience more best-in-class, globally best-in-class banking services. So I got excited about it when, we've been thinking about the banking industry for a long time, actually, at Globalive, but there hasn't been the right entry point where we could really see a way to build something, on top of a solid foundation. And that's what Wealth One really is a very well-run, very solid foundation of a bank that, as you mentioned, has ended up with a regulatory dislocation, despite what is really a very solid value proposition and a very solid business.
Does your bid for it help to alleviate those regulatory issues in which, there's issues of national security, anti-money laundering concerns? Is that how you're able to get in, or are you saying that those are not really real and valid concerns?
Well, I don't have any information about those, national security concerns, and really what I'm focused on is capitalizing the bank further to grow what is already an existing solid platform. So I won't even speak to the national security concerns, whatever those allegations are and whatever legitimacy there is. But I do think that the Canadian government is quite thorough in its analysis and, of course, wouldn't come out of nowhere with allegations like that. That said, the degree and severity, scope, implications are all things that I think are better left to the authorities to assess and, get to the right outcome. But certainly our proposal satisfies all of the minister's orders with respect to a reorganization of the bank. And we have a proposal in front of the regulators for approval that is out there that we believe satisfies both the government's considerations and concerns as well as the needs of the regulator. But all of it is pending regulatory approval. So really, today, we're really just talking about why Globalive is excited about entering the banking space. And
again, is it Wealth One just sort of the entry point to broaden out, because it is thought of as a bank for Chinese Canadian clients? Is that an area of the market that you're looking to build on, or use that as a toehold to really compete for deposits for business from everybody?
I think that it is something that's focused today on new Canadians, and there is a great opportunity to service new Canadians. We have, of course, the growth of this country really being driven by immigration. We see some 500,000 new Canadians coming in every year. And of course, they're looking for telecoms, which we've serviced in the past. And of course, looking for banking relationships, which we will service now, hopefully with regulatory approvals, hopefully service going forward. So I think it's really about presenting a real alternative to new Canadians, but from there, we will most certainly expand into offerings for all Canadians and provide choice that will give people an alternative, an independent alternative. And as I say, I really believe that's going to cause some real innovation amongst the major banks and improvements in technology platforms, improvements in customer experience in banking. All of those things will be pushed, and the major banks are very well run in Canada, as we know, as we as Canadians are often very proud of talking about globally. And so there's no doubt they have the capability to continue to progress and invest in innovation and build world-class solutions, forward-looking solutions. And so it's going to be a competitive challenge, and I look forward to it. It's a long-term view we have to take, very similar to the wireless industry and the investments we made over a period of close to 15 years in that business. This is something that's very long-term. It's not something that can happen overnight. And obviously, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves because it's all subject to regulatory approval.
Can you tell me more about who is backing you, where these people are? Is it domestic financing that you have? Have you gone abroad?
It is domestic and U.S. sources predominantly, but because of the transaction being where it is in front of the government and regulators for their consideration and review, I can't talk about any specifics today.
Do you think about one of the things that was publicized and is out there is that Wealth One is not profitable right now, which is, of course, something that our banks are very proud of, profitable and dividend paying. Certainly, does your plan envision that you can get to a path to profitability quickly?
I'm very confident that what's been built by the founders of Wealth One Bank is a very solid foundation. There's a good customer base today that is, despite these regulatory challenges, has proven to be very resilient, and the brand and franchise has proven to be very resilient. So I think you're quite right that it has nowhere near the scale that it needs to be to drive the kind of profit margins that the major banks do. That's a long ways off, but I do see a path where if we just stick to a solid value proposition of offering an independent choice for Canadians, and initially the new Canadians, as you described, there's a great opportunity to build over time a great service portfolio, product portfolio. But I'm also, as you know from the history in the wireless industry, very much about sticking to our knitting. So the value proposition is narrow today. It's limited services today, and there's a lot of runway just to offer a great alternative in what the bank offers today.
I'm curious how you thought about RBC's acquisition of HSBC, which in part was a play for new Canadians. Did that, I guess, confirm your thesis? Does that mean you have an even more formidable competitor to go up against, or the opposite? Did it create some white space?
I think it's the former. I think you're right on with that, Amber. That's a very and from my vantage point, really insightful analysis. I think you really have a situation now where there's been more consolidation. What probably was the bank that was best serving new or first generation Canadians has now been consolidated by what I want to stress again is a very well run bank in RBC. I'm proudly a shareholder. I think proudly Canadian as well as a Canadian, proudly a shareholder. So I think that there's really a situation where there's been consolidation. You have, again, more market power amongst a small number of players. And we've just seen very clearly in our history what that leads to in the telecom industry. I mean, we see now just, the last couple of days, Bell Canada laying off, 10% of its workforce while raising prices, raising its dividend, and then blaming the CRTC for its challenges. I mean, I think this exemplifies what we've got going on in Canada. And I think banking has got a lot of analogs in terms of just the reality that there is just the industry consolidated into a very well-run, very profitable, very well-run oligopoly. So challengers to that is critically important for the long-term prosperity of the country.
Well, on BCA, they did boost the dividend, but less than they historically do, and did warn about a slumping profit growth. But I do hear your point, and I want to get your last take on telcos. Are you done with that sector?
Absolutely not. It's always been my dream. You and I have talked about it many times. I think we built a great business that I voted, against selling. And as you know, I tried to reacquire it a couple of years ago. And here we see prices going up because there's not real competition in wireless. So my mission on that front is incomplete. And when the opportunity presents itself again, we most certainly will circle back to that.
Anthony.